Coming from the land of the rising Timbit or something like that. Hockey is very important. Now you look at me, and you see someone crazy about sports naturally. Well, unfortunately, you're wrong, because I use computers, and those two are like oil and water. So while on a call with some friends, I challenged myself to make the most god-awful hockey game ever conceived. Almost like a miniature game jam, except completely scuffed. And by the end, I had this. Yeah, definitely winning Game of the Year with this. There's one takeaway from this 2-hour endeavor, and it was actually really important. This little demo was actually fun somehow. Now I just needed to make, well, a game.
For reference, this is the hard part.
So I started by defining the platform. There is no way I am jumping through the hoops to build a little project like this on Steam. Power Overload for sure is a PC release, but not this game. By process of elimination, the best platform for what would eventually be called Rinked would be on mobile devices. With this in mind, I got to work on reworking the controls. Rotating the player is actually more tricky than you might think. Usually, Unity's built-in transform functionality lets you do look-at operations to modify the rotation of a transform. The problem with look-at is that it doesn't really play nicely with a physics simulation. Unity has a stable simulation when rigid bodies, physics objects, are controlled by a physics engine. To dynamically interact with these objects, we have to work with the physics engine by using forces and torques, instead of by bypassing the internal physics magic by directly modifying transform values. Here's a script that I created that rotates the player using torques. Fun note, this is the exact method I used to control the in-dev VR hands in Power Overload, although that's slightly more complicated due to the fact that it's in 3D, and also I don't remember how it works at all because I don't comment anything. Seriously, I gotta start doing that. Jesus, I mean, what does this even do? Yeah, I gotta start commenting. Back to the script. I just take the mouse position and the player position, then subtract them to create a vector pointing from the player to the mouse position. This next line is basically just a bunch of things happening, so I'll walk through them step by step. This function returns the signed angle between two vector 2's. Okay, what the heck does that mean? A vector represents a position using a coordinate axis. Since the game is 2D, it's a vector 2 as opposed to a vector 3 in a 3D game. It just means it uses two numbers to represent a point. The signed angle is just the angle between the vectors. Basically, this takes in two vector 2's and gives you the angle in degrees between the two vectors. Here we can see my beautiful programming skills at work again because I've hard-coded a number here. This division by 5 just makes the force smaller. Alright, last part of this line. I take whatever number I've calculated using this function and apply torque based on that. In this way, the player will rotate faster when the desired rotation is far away from the current rotation. Also, for some reason, I need this negative sign here. Don't ask, I don't know the answer. The final piece of the puzzle is what makes the script work. I have to apply a rotational drag to the physics object. This way energy is lost and the player will stop rotating when it reaches the center. If this wasn't the case, rotational momentum would be perfectly conserved and it would just swing back and forth forever and ever 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 and ever. Phew, okay, rotation done. Originally, the way you charged up a player's shot was by holding the button for longer. I figured it would be more intuitive to actually pull back to change the power of a shot. It didn't yoink that from anywhere. Next up, I made it so that you pull back from where you touch, not from where the player is. I represented this point of original touch with a little circle. I slapped some shaking animation on the player when they charge up, it's done like so. The weight of the animation layer is adjusted based on the pullback amount, so the amplitude of the vibration changes, not the frequency. Then I added more than one player and made them separately controllable by touching different sides of the screen. So player 1 can control their character by touching on this side, and player 2 can control their character by touching on this side. It's important to keep in mind that when I say, oh, I just added this, it's actually usually a multi-hour programming and debugging and playtesting deployment session to implement properly. Also, because of the tech demo nature of the original game jamish idea, the codebase is a disaster. Once this is all implemented, we can see the true magic of object-oriented programming. Look at this! It just works! If else, if else, if else, if else, if else, if else, else, if else, if else, if else, if else, else, if else, if else. Switch case.
What the
Now this isn't a game until there's an actual goal for the player. You get it? It's literally a goal. I made a net using a bunch of red rectangles and then a goal zone, which has a trigger collider. This way the goal zone doesn't actually interact with the puck, but still triggers a handler when the puck enters the zone. Then I assign whose net belongs to who, and when the puck enters, I increment a number in some random script. I am an organized programmer, I swear. Wait, why does it say show the horror show that is my code in the script? Self-deprecation isn't funny anymore, grandpa. Neither is being meta. I also added some particles for charging a shot, and when a shot is fully charged, the player will start emitting these particles as a visual indicator. Next up, I added a UI for when a goal is scored. The canvas pulls down from the top with an animation. Then the corresponding number is updated via script. The way the animator for this works is by queuing up a trigger for either player 1 or player 2. That trigger will cause this little spinny animation. It's key to note that the score is always updated as soon as the puck enters the net, but the scoreboard is only updated when the animation event is triggered. So yeah, it's starting to become a real game at this point. I just have to actually make it user friendly and create different fun levels, which is just super easy. In the next part of this, I'll go over the visuals of the game, selecting different characters and the menu system. This has been the making of Rinked Part 1. If you enjoyed, maybe like, I don't know. Oh, and make sure to go check out my homeboy Home Slice Arends Channel. He made all the music in this video, except for the Doom music. He didn't make the Doom music, but he made all the music in the background, and definitely go check out his channel, link in the description.